Chapter 2, Section 4, Chemical Reactions. Key concept. Life depends on chemical reactions. Main ideas. Bonds break and form during chemical reactions. And chemical reactions release or absorb energy. First main idea. Bonds break and form during chemical reactions. Plant cells make cellulose by linking simple sugars together. Plant and animal cells break down sugars to get usable energy, and all cells build protein molecules by bonding amino acids together. These are just a few of the chemical reactions in living things. Chemical reactions change substances into different substances by breaking and forming chemical bonds. Although the matter changes form, both matter and energy are conserved in a chemical reaction. Your cells need the oxygen molecules that you breathe in. Oxygen, which is O2, plays a part in a series of chemical reactions that provides usable energy for your cells. These reactions break down the simple sugar glucose, which is C6H12O6. The process then uses oxygen and glucose and results in carbon dioxide, which is CO2, water, which is H2O, and usable energy. Oxygen and glucose are the reactants. Reactants are the substances changed during a chemical reaction. Carbon dioxide and water are the products. Products are the substances made by a chemical reaction. Chemical equations are used to show what happens during a chemical reaction. The overall equation for the process that changes oxygen and glucose into carbon dioxide and water is 6 O2s plus 1 C6H12O6 reacts to form 6 H2Os and 6 CO2s. The reactants are on the left side of the equation and the products are on the right side. The arrow shows the direction of the reaction. This process, which is called cellular respiration, makes the carbon dioxide and water vapor that you breathe out. But for carbon dioxide and water to be made, bonds must be broken in the reactants, and then the bonds must form in the products. What causes bonds in oxygen and glucose molecules to break, and what happens when new bonds form in carbon dioxide and water? First, energy is added to break bonds in the molecules of oxygen and glucose. Bond energy is the amount of energy that will break a bond between two atoms. Bonds between different types of atoms have different bond energies. Energy is released when bonds form, such as when molecules of water and carbon dioxide are made. When a bond forms, the amount of energy released is equal to the amount of energy that breaks the same bond. For example, energy is released when hydrogen and oxygen atoms bond to form a water molecule. The same amount of energy is needed to break apart a water molecule. Some reactions go from reactants to products until the reactants are used up. However, many reactions in living things are reversible, meaning they move in both directions at the same time. These reactions tend to go in one direction or the other, depending on the concentrations of the reactants and products. One such reaction lets blood, like the RBCs shown in the figure here, carry carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide reacts with water in blood to form a compound called carbonic acid, which is H2CO3. Your body needs this reaction to get rid of carbon dioxide waste from your cells. The arrows in the equation on the screen here show that the reaction goes in both directions. When the carbon dioxide concentration is high, as that concentration is around your cells, the reaction moves toward the right and carbonic acid forms. In your lungs, the carbon dioxide concentration is low, so the reaction goes in the other direction and carbonic acid breaks down. When a reaction takes place at an equal rate in both directions, the reactant and product concentrations stay the same. This state is called equilibrium. Equilibrium is reached when both the reactants and products are made at the same rate. Second main idea. Chemical reactions release or absorb energy. All chemical reactions involve changes in energy. Energy is added to the reactants so that they break their chemical bonds. When new bonds form in the products, energy is released. This means that energy is both absorbed and released during a chemical reaction. Some chemical reactions release more energy than they absorb. Other chemical reactions absorb more energy than they release. When a reaction releases or absorbs energy, it depends on the bond energy. Some energy must be absorbed by the reactants in any chemical reaction. Activation energy is the amount of energy that needs to be absorbed for a chemical reaction to start. Activation energy is like the energy you would need to push a rock up a hill. Once the rock is at the top, it rolls down the other side by itself. A graph of the activation energy that is needed to start a chemical reaction is shown on the screen here. An exothermic chemical reaction releases more energy than it absorbs. If the products have a higher bond energy than the reactants, the reaction is exothermic. The excess energy, which is the difference in energy between the reactants and products, is often given off as heat or light. Some animals, such as squids or fireflies, give off light that comes from the exothermic reactions, like is represented on the screen here. Cellular respiration, the process that uses glucose and oxygen to provide usable energy for cells, is also exothermic. Cellular respiration releases not only usable energy for your cells, but also heat that keeps your body warm. An endothermic reaction absorbs more energy than it releases. If products have a lower bond energy than reactants, the reaction is endothermic. Energy must be absorbed to make up the difference. One of the most important processes for life on Earth, photosynthesis, is endothermic. During photosynthesis, plants absorb energy from sunlight and use that energy to make simple sugars and complex carbohydrates. Chapter 2, Section 4, Chemical Reactions. Key concept: life depends on chemical reactions. Main ideas: bonds break and form during chemical reactions, and chemical reactions release or absorb energy.